Good morning, students. Let's continue our chapter 2, The Adventure of TOTO. Dear students, today we are going to finish this chapter and I am going to send you on the board the nouns, adjectives and verbs. Now, I have not done nouns, adjectives and verbs in beehive. I did in the chapter 1 of the supplementary reading the idioms and phrases with you. In the chapter 2, I am doing nouns, adjectives and verbs with you. In short, what I just want to tell you is, in the exams, you would be asked noun form, adjective form, adverb form or the verb form of any of the word. And therefore, from each chapter, may it be from beehive or from the supplementary reading, you will have to learn these nouns, adjectives by heart. And now, when we are going to do the next time beehive, I am going to begin with nouns, adjectives and verbs. I won't give you chapter wise, but I will be giving you as per all the verbs or all the nouns together from first to 3 units or maybe from chapter 1 to 4 units. But remaining ones, you have to find out from the book and learn them and write it in your book. It will help you in your board exam. Now, let's begin with our adventure of TOTO. We are on page 10. Come over here from large kettle. Yesterday we studied in the other previous paragraphs that how TOTO enjoyed the hot water, and then he would take the soap in his hands or in his feet and rub himself all over. And then when anyone laughed at him, how he used to feel offended and would not go to have bath. He would just miss his bath. Now, let's come to the next paragraph. A large kitchen kettle had been left on the fire to boil for tea, and TOTO, finding himself with nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid. Now, students, what is the meaning of the lid? Underline this. I have given you on the first day. The meaning of the lid is a cover of the kettle. So what is happening? A large kitchen kettle had been left on the fire to boil for tea. Then, as the tea was getting boiled, what happened? TOTO, finding himself nothing better to do, decided to remove the lid. He decides to take away the lid of the kettle. Finding the water just warm enough for a bath, he got in, with his head sticking out from the open kettle. Now, what happened? He decided, since the water was hot, and we saw in yesterday how he enjoyed hot water. So what he decides, he wanted to get into that water. And so, he got into that water, in that kettle, with his head sticking out from the open kettle. This was just fine for a while. For a little while, it was okay. It could be managed with the water as it was getting boiled, until the water began to boil. As the water was getting boiled, till then it was okay, absolutely fine. TOTO could bear up the heat of the water, the warmth of the water. Then what happened? TOTO then raised himself a little, but finding it cold outside, sat down again. He continued hopping up and down for some time, until grandmother arrived and howled him half-boiled out of the kettle. Students, I have given you the meaning of the howled. What is the meaning of the howled? It's to pull him. What is the meaning of the hopping, students? Hopping up and down. You have seen the monkeys, you have seen the animals hopping, jumping. Okay? So what happens, students? You know that TOTO was a mischievous monkey. So he continues hopping up and down for some time, until grandmother arrives and pulls him out from the boiled water. If there is a part of the brain, especially devoted to mischief, that part was largely developed in TOTO. So see, students, what she is telling, if there is a part of the brain especially devoted to mischief, and that was largely developed in Toto. All the mischievous part was given to Toto. That naughty Toto was. He was always tearing things to pieces. He always torn the pieces. You have seen how the author's blazer had been torn into pieces. Whenever one of my aunts came near him, he made every effort to get hold of her dress and tear a hole in it. So what happened? Whenever the author's aunt, mummy's sister or maybe daddy's sister, whenever they went to the author's place, what did Toto do? Toto would get hold of the aunt's dress and then he would try to tear it or make a hole in it. One day at lunchtime, students, we are in the next paragraph. One day at lunchtime, a large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto stuffing himself with rice. Students, what is the meaning of stuffing? Filling himself with rice. Now, imagine when the guests come to the house, we try to prepare the better dishes. We try to give them delicious food. And so, the grandmother had prepared pulao. You know what is a pulao? Pulao is an Indian dish. And so, what happened? A large dish of pulao stood in the center of the dining table. We entered the room to find Toto stuffing himself with rice. Instead of the guests eating, Toto was filling himself with rice. We entered the room. Okay? Who are this we? Who are this we over here? Here this we are the guest, author, his grandmother, grandfather. Okay? Then, what happens then? My grandmother screamed and Toto threw a plate at her. Grandmother screamed. Students, why do you think that grandmother must have screamed? It's because grandmother saw Toto was eating pulao, which was prepared for the guest. Now imagine when the animal, you want to eat your pet animal and all, puts the hand in the dish which is prepared for the guest. Will you be happy, students? Will you be able to give it to the guest? No. And so therefore, grandmother screams. And Toto threw a plate at her. Look at this. What Toto does? He throws plate at her. One of my aunts rushed forward and received a glass of water in the face. See, when one of the aunts, when she went in front, what happened? Toto threw water on her, a glass of water on her. When grandfather arrived, Toto picked up the dish of pulao and made his exit through a window. See, he wasn't afraid of grandfather much because grandfather had bought him. And then, what does he do, student? When the grandfather comes, he takes the pulao and makes the exit through the window. He gets out of the window. We found him in the branches of the jackfruit tree, the dish still in his arms. So, where do they find him? They find Toto on the jackfruit tree. And what was he doing? He was eating rice. Where was the dish? The dish of pulao rice was in his hand. Then, what he was doing? He remained there all afternoon, eating slowly through the rice, determined on finishing every grain. So you see, he was determined. He had decided to finish each and every grain of rice that he had taken in the dish. And so, he finishes each and every grain. And whole afternoon, he remains there on the tree. Which tree, students? The jackfruit tree. And then, in order to spite grandmother, who had screamed at him, he threw the dish down from the tree and chattered with delight when it broke into 100 pieces. So, students, what happens? What is the meaning of spite over here? The meaning of spite over here is hatred. I have given it to you on the first day. So see, students, the height of Toto's mischievous. What he does, he knows that the grandfather screamed, yelled at him, and so therefore, what he does, he threw the dish down from the tree and chattered. What is the meaning of chattered over here? Talked with delight, happily, when it broke into 100 pieces. He made sure that the dish gets broken into 100 pieces. Then, obviously, Toto was not the sort of pet we could keep for long. they realized that we cannot keep Toto for any longer. He is not a type of pet like the dog, or even they had donkey. When it was tied out, it would behave well, or the other animals like grandfather also had a tortoise. But over here, Toto, mischievous to the height. So much of mischief he had. Even grandfather realized that we were not well to do and could not afford the frequent loss of dishes, clothes, curtains and wallpaper. So who are these we? The author and his grandparents. What they say? We were not well off. We were not that rich that we could every time get the new sets of clothes or dishes or the curtains, wallpapers, which Toto had done into pieces, which he had torn into pieces. So grandfather found Tonga driver and sold Toto back to him for only 3 rupees. See student, look at this now. Grandfather himself also is fed up of Toto. In order to get rid of Toto, they found a Tonga driver and they sold Toto to Tonga driver. In how many rupees? 3 rupees. Did they get profit, student? Not at all. They had brought the Toto from Tonga driver for 5 rupees and they sold him back in 3 rupees. On the top of that, they had a lot of things getting damaged. Okay? The author's blazer plus the decoration which was made, the plates have been torn, Ant's dress have been made whole. And so students, they realize monkey is not a pet which we can keep in the house. So students, with this we have finished this chapter over here. And next I will be starting with you from the next week onwards. We will begin, that is tomorrow I will begin with the social studies. And next week onwards we will finish chapter 14 of social studies. Now I want you to have a look at the board where I have given you the nouns, adjectives and verb forms. Students, see, you have nouns, adjectives and verbs. You have to write any board work that I give it to you. You have to write in the fair book in good and clean, neat handwriting. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. Please write this. Plus, if you can find out more nouns, verbs from the lesson. Okay? Bye students. Have a good day.